In this recording, we're going to go through how to add tables and relationships to an imported Maximo archive definition. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the access definition for work order that we imported from the text file that shipped with the product. It'll just take a minute to open up. In here I see all my standard tables, work order, all the transaction tables, but if I scroll down to the bottom, I see that there is no person table that's associated with this archive. I want to add the person table to the archive definition. So I'm going to minimize the access definition itself, and I'm going to open a SQL editor. Right here I'm using Aquadata, but you can use the tool of your choice. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the Maximo relationships that relate from the work order table to the person table. So I'm going to run select star from max relationship where parent equals work order and child equals person. Now we'll go ahead and execute the statement. And it will come back with three relationships: reported by, owner, person, on behalf of. It gives me the parent table of work order, the child table of person, and then the where clause, the attributes that are related. So the person ID on the work order, the person ID on the person table will relate to the reported by on the work order. Person ID on person will relate to owner on work order, or person ID on person will relate to on behalf of on work order. Now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go over into Optim and create these relationships. So to do that, I'm going to do File, New, Relationship. I'm going to browse for the parent table. The creator ID for my tables is whoever created the database. In this case, it's Maximo. And then we're going to find the work order table. Scroll down towards the bottom. And there it is. Then next we're going to find the child table. And here we're going to scroll through again. We're going to find the person table. We'll select them. We're going to give the relationship a description. In this case, we'll call it work order reported by. And by default, it brings in some attributes that it thinks we might want. Usually it's the keys of the table. Those really are not relevant to our relationship. So the attribute that we care about in the parent is going to be reported by, so we'll enter that in. And then we'll tab over, and this will be person ID. And now it says it's okay. We'll go ahead and delete this other expression that's irrelevant. And we can go ahead and save the relationship. Now I'm required to give it a constraint, and what I usually do is give in the same name that is the name of the relationship, and in this case that was reported by. So that's what we're going to name this relationship in Optim. Alright, so that was the first one we needed. Now we can create another one. And again, we're going to go to Maximo and work order, and then we'll go to person. And in this case, we're going to create the work order owner. And the parent expression is going to be owner, and the child is person ID. And again, now we say that's okay. We can get rid of this attribute that we don't need. We'll go ahead and save it. And again, we're going to give this the same name as what the relationship had within Maximo. So it's going to be owner, person. Go ahead and save it. And then we needed a third relationship. Again, we're going to go to Maximo, work order. Then we'll go to person. And this relationship is going to be the work order on behalf of. On behalf of will be our parent attribute, person ID will be our child attribute. Now it's okay, get rid of this extra attribute. Go ahead and save it. We're going to name it on behalf of, because that was the Max relationship name. Alright, now we're done creating relationships. If we go back into the Maximo access definition, we can go ahead in here and we can add the person table. It's going to tell us it's table, it knows it's Oracle. And in the case of person, when I archive a work order, I don't necessarily want to archive I don't want to delete the person records that are associated, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the delete option. I'm going to deselect that. And we'll go ahead over to the relationships tab. And you'll notice here that I have 3 new relationships. They're in the new status because they're newly added, because I newly added the person table. They're the 3 relationships I just created. What I want to do is I want to make sure that they're selected. Then I want to evaluate what I want to do for option 1 and option 2. When a relationship is selected, it's going to be traversed from the parent to the child. So it will go from the work order record to the person record. If I wanted it to go back up the relationship from the person record to the work order record, I would keep option 1 checked. I don't need that, so I can deselect option 1. And if I was selecting option 1, I could also select option 2, which makes it go back down from work order to person. So that would be, it would go from work order to person, person back to work order, then work order back to person one more time. And that's very useful if you have a lot of parent-child, child-parent relationships that you want to traverse back and forth. But in this case, we don't really need it. So we're going to go ahead and save our change. And once we save our change, you notice the status of the relationship is no longer new. So we can close out of this. And we'll open our archive request for work order. We'll go ahead and run it. It's giving us a progress report just like in any other instance. As you can see, it has no errors, no warnings. And when I go down, it now tells me that it's going through the person table as well. In this instance, it didn't collect any rows. There were no person records associated with the work orders that met my criteria. But that is, in a nutshell, how you're going to add a new table and new relationships to an access definition.